Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, family, to Tea Time Podcast by Atiya J. This is your self-help, spiritual podcast, uplifting topics we all love to avoid, but we definitely need to conquer. Tea Time is your moment to pause, listen, and absorb what is soothing to you. I'm Atiya J, aka Tia, a certified holistic life coach, and this idea was sparked by my passion to help others discover their latent potential, purpose, and significance, especially if you are one who feels overlooked, alone, or forgotten. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. I see you and I feel you. Welcome to Tea Time Podcast. Enjoy the tea. Peace. Assalamu alaikum. What's up, everyone? I wanted to introduce this new podcast episode. I have a guest. I'm out here with Coach Key of Keyona Speaks podcast. She is a life coach. We met on social media, and she's a really dope person. I really enjoyed this conversation with her. I broke it down into a few parts. So in part one, we're discussing emotions, identifying emotions, the difference between emotions and feelings, as well as our own experience with being able to name our emotions for ourselves and our experience growing up. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Let me know. I will see you later. Peace. What's up, Tea Time family? Welcome to Tea Time Podcast. Peace. Assalamu alaikum. I'm here today with the one and only Keyona. Keyona or Keyona? Keyona.
You said it right the first time. Keyona.
I don't know why. Yeah, Keyona, exactly. All right. I'm here with the one and only Keyona, podcaster of Keyona Speaks podcast, life coach. Tell us about yourself. Welcome.
Yeah, so what it do, everyone, was these scenes. How you going? My name is Keyona, aka Coach Key, and I am the podcaster of Keyona Speaks. I am a life coach. I help women of color to overcome their mental and emotional barriers, break that cycle of generational trauma, and learn how to own their story so that they can heal for themselves and for future generations. I love intellectually stimulating conversations, connoisseur of French fries, and I'm so excited to be on this podcast with you.
Yes, I'm excited to have you for real. But I gotta ask you, since you said it, what are your favorite kind of French fries? I just had some.
I love waffle fries from Chick-fil-A. I love the crinkly fries from Culver's. I like the little, I don't know what you call them, like the spiral fries or whatever from Arby's.
The curly?
Yeah, the curly fries from Arby's. But I would say, like, if Chick-fil-A is not available to me, my second best place to go to for fries are Wendy's. I don't know what they've done, but their fries are popping now.
Facts. They put the right, I think they use sea salt now, right? I think that might be it.
They've definitely been doing some rebranding of the fries, but delicioso. Love it.
So tell us more about yourself, like anything that you want to share.
I am a Southern girl. Don't let the accent fool you. I'm from down south, North Carolina. Yes, born and raised, but my family's from Baltimore. So I never really grew up with a very Southern twang. But if you catch me in a very giggly mood, you might hear a little bit of something. I'm Caribbean, so big up all the West Indians, them Grenadian. What else? I'm about to be 31. Can't believe that I'm in my dirty 30s. But yes, I'm about to be 31. Oh, hey. Mm-hmm. Yes, I am a poet as well. I always seem to forget to mention that because I don't write as much as I used to, but I am a published poet. And I actually have a goal to create my own anthology soon, inshallah. What else? I'm married. Yes, I got a ring on it. And
don't be commenting.
Facts. What else can I say about me? I'm just silly. Like, to know me is to laugh all the time. So yeah, that's enough.
I love it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Let's get into the topic. So I wanted to bring you on. I met you on Instagram. Thanks for hitting me up. We're both life coaches, and we've been kind of in conversation with each other for like 3 months now? Longer?
Yeah, it's been some months.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Time, like I say all the time, time goes in a blur for me. But we've been in conversation and we talked about emotions. You sent me actually a dope podcast, The Happiness Lab.
Yes.
You sent me a podcast episode with Brene Brown, and I needed it at the moment, so thank you. And it was all about identifying emotions. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to have a conversation about that with you, because number one, as Black women, even before the life coach chat, like identifying emotions is important for us. And
yeah, we're not raised to really do that.
Exactly. So identifying emotions, what is the importance of that to you?
For me, when it comes to emotions, I always have a physiological response to things. Mm-hmm. And I realized that growing up as a child, I wasn't invited to express what was happening to me. It was kind of like, oh, you're crying too much, you're this, you're that. And so I learned at a very early age to suppress. And kind of like going back to what you said about that Brene Brown episode, the longer that I suppressed and didn't allow myself to kind of explore my feelings and emotions, the less I was able to really identify appropriately my emotions. And I remember being in high school and having these thoughts every single day that I'm gonna die from stress, because I didn't have an outlet. And that's actually where poetry came into play. And so now as an adult, I realized, no, I don't want to continue to feel this stress in my left breast, feel this heaviness, and actually fulfill that prophecy, so to speak, of me dying from stress. So I need to learn how to healthily feel and express my emotions. And that's actually what kind of started my healing journey as well.
Thank you for sharing that. Something that I love that you just exemplified is your vulnerability and ability to speak with emotion, which probably is from that Caribbean background too. Y'all know how to speak. But I want to ask, that made me want to ask, like, what made you so vulnerable? Were you always like that? Because you just said like emotion wasn't really there, but what makes you be able to express emotion that you weren't even always able to identify?
Once again, from childhood, wanting to feel seen and heard. And I just got to a place where after I got through my teenage years and I was writing poems and I was continuing to write in my diary, I felt that, okay, I'm an adult now. I don't need to hide behind paper anymore. Like, yeah, paper, you're cool. You've been my saving grace, but now I need to find my voice and I need to find the correct people to talk to. Okay, I already identified the people that I was not comfortable speaking to, but now let me have a choice in who I find to be in my support system. So that was definitely that. I felt like I've always been vulnerable. It's just that lack of trust reduced me to kind of suppressing that vulnerability. And another thing is, people will come to me with their issues, with their problems. They will become vulnerable with me. And I'm like, well, if I'm this to people, there's got to be someone out there for me. And so once I was able to really consciously choose my people, was I able to kind of tap into my vulnerability. And also the episode that you did about Brene Brown,
right,
about vulnerability, like that had me sitting back and going, look how courageous it is to stand in your truth, to own your story. And that's like been my thing, owning your story. So that's helped a lot too.
I like that. I feel like sometimes, and I'll get you to life coach me real quick. I'm gonna let you put me on game. But I feel like I've been vulnerable, right? And I'm somebody who's open, but it's something deep within me that says even when I try to be vulnerable, it's not real. What would you say to that? Like, put me on game.
You probably have a definition of what vulnerability looks like. And so you're trying to show up in that definition instead of allowing yourself to redefine what it is. As life changes for us, definitions change. And so I think with the social media age, it's so easy to look at all this free game, all these trends, especially about self-care and healing, and be like, all right, a lot of people on my phone, on YouTube, on my social media are telling me that to be vulnerable is this, to own my feelings is this. And I never really saw it that way, so I'm going to try it. But you got to do what aligns with you. And that's where listening to your heart, which is something that I had to pray for. I had to pray to listen to my heart and tap into my discernment to really align with what does being vulnerable and expressing myself look like for me. And that's actually a conversation that you and other listeners are going to have with yourself. Like, what feels right being vulnerable? What feels right expressing, myself? Because me, even though I lack vulnerability a lot in my life, I have always been extremely trusting, lacking boundaries, all that crazy stuff. And it would take a person, breaking a boundary that I didn't even know I had for me to be like, hold up, wait a minute, and losing trust for me to be like more conscious. And so now in adulthood, I'm like, nah, I have to really redefine things for myself. And so that's what I would recommend for you. What does it mean to you? And then perform action steps and see, like, is that true? And just tweak it as you go, because we're ever evolving creatures,
Thank you. No, I appreciate that, because
you're welcome.
You actually made me give myself a bit of credit, because I feel like, especially I'm newly married, I've been working on that vulnerability, but it really is what you're talking about, seeing how everyone else does it. And I'm thinking there's more I have to do, but I'll work on more just sitting with me.
Let me give you an anecdote to even push my point further, because we're in the same boat as far as being newlywed. When I was courting my husband before we actually got married, my mother said to him when she first met him, Keyona is a very attitudey person. She's very moody. And that's something that I heard my whole entire life. And I've always withheld expressing my emotions because I was afraid of people seeing me, and I'm painted as a monster, because that's what I heard from my mother and my grandmother. So the first time my husband triggered me, instead of allowing myself to naturally just respond the way I wanted to, I remember what my mother told him, and I shut my own self down and isolated myself in another room and distanced myself from my husband, instead of saying, babe, you said something, I didn't really like how you said it. Let me give myself about 5 to 10 minutes to process the whole situation, and then we'll talk about it. I completely isolated him out of fear of being the moody, attitudey person my mother said. So that right there proved to me that I'm living my life trying to not live in a definition that my husband told me wasn't even true. Like, when he finally did see my moodiness, he was like, girl, it's nothing the way your mother tried to make you seem to be. And that's when I realized I got to chill. I got to stop allowing people's projections to define how I show up in expressing myself. So.
I like that. Thank you for sharing. That made me, I do the same thing. Like, I used to isolate. Not anymore. Like you said, I'm working on it. Nope. Thank a lot for marriage.
Silent treatment ain't effective treatment, y'all.
At all. No. And then when you're saying it, when we isolate like that, or used to, because we're not in that box anymore. But that we're being that moody person that people are saying that we are. So it's funny how what people can put on us when we react to that, instead of just being who we are, it makes us what they're telling us we are.
But it's a blessing. Now, like with hindsight, I realized that while my moodiness was not acceptable to them, but I thank the Most High for being a moody person, because I've always tapped into my emotions. If something gives me immense anxiety or gives me immense joy, I'm going to shed that tear. I'm always been in tune with my emotions, even when I wasn't expressing them with language. So now I've kind of reclaimed my power from my mom saying, or my grandmother saying, you're so moody, your attitude is stink. It's like, yeah, I could have worked on how I communicated it, but at least I feel, and I'm not this person out here walking around numb and having no feelings. So that's another way for y'all moody people out there. Appreciate it. Appreciate your moody, because that means you feel. You know your emotions.
Facts. Now, before we get in too deep, let's get back to the identifying emotions, because we could chat forever.
Okay.
But I do want to say we're speaking a lot about emotions and feelings. What do you think is the difference between a feeling and an emotion?
Well, that's one hell of a question. Off the rip, when I think about feelings and emotions, feelings always remind me of like a physiological experience. And then when I look at emotions, it's the ability to define that feeling through a state or to correlate a memory or an experience that evokes a feeling with a type of state. That's what I think.
I don't know
what Shay Google say, but
I think you're pretty on point. When I did Google it, the definition, or Merriam-Webster, it said the state of feeling. So
okay,
yeah, you got it right.
And it makes sense
and
because
you have your definition.
Shout out to Brene Brown. She really opened my mind to the importance of being able to identify our emotions. Like, I have diluted my emotions because I lack the language to define exactly how I feel. I'm just like, I feel good, I feel bad, I feel this. And it's like, no, there's actually an emotion that can really define what I feel.
Absolutely. So speaking more about the emotions and how we actually identify them, since you say you do define how you feel, how do you actually pinpoint that word for what it is you're feeling? What's that process, that internal or external, if it's that?
That's literally something that I'm still working on, because I've noticed that I recycle the same words. Like, I'll say, oh, I'm anxious, or I'm frustrated, or I'm stressed. Like, I could do better in discovering more emotions and what they feel like, and to properly identify how I feel. So I would say that's an area that I definitely need improvement, but I always start with my feeling. And then after the feeling, I'm like, well, what's bringing this feeling on? What thoughts am I having? What's triggering me? And from that, do I eventually identify an emotion? I actually was told by my therapist that I have an adjustment disorder, and it's fixated around anxiety. Anything that stimulates me to be in an anxious state, I find trouble adjusting to. So I know anxiety definitely is an emotion that I feel almost every single day, but I could definitely do a lot better on articulating, is it really stress or is it feeling overwhelmed? Like, those are the things that I'm in the process of doing better. And I just discovered that there's a such thing called an emotion wheel or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
I think I've heard that a while ago, but I'm not familiar with it. So you can explain it more.
It's this type of wheel that basically has like the large category of feelings. You either feel sad, mad, and I forgot the other two. And then there's like another circle that expands what those emotions are for being sad, for being angry, for being happy and joyful, stuff like that. And so it's like you kind of get more granular to the point where you're able to not say, oh, I'm sad, but explicitly identify the emotion that would go under the large umbrella of sad. So it helps people to really build their emotional vocabulary so that they can like properly explain how they feel. Because one thing Brene Brown said in that episode is that when we continue to lack the language to explain our feelings, then it prohibits us from properly expressing our feelings. Like, we'll dilute exactly how we feel. And when she said that, I was like, whoa, no lie here. So I'm praying that I'll be able to articulate my feelings much better, but it's definitely something I'm working on.
Yeah, no, I bet you will. Just like you saying, Brene Brown, listening to her, she's been years into deep research and is an expert in this, and she still does not have all the language in English, much less every other language, to explain emotions. And she talks about that. Yeah. And that's why I think like what you're explaining, to be able to identify the fact that you don't know how to identify all the time, is a very like high intelligence and a very emotionally intelligent. That's what I'm trying to say. More emotionally intelligent identification to be able to realize about yourself. So I think a lot of people go throughout life, especially us in the Black community, we don't focus on emotions. We focus on what can we do and what can't we do, and what do I have to overcome in order to do what it is I think I have to do. you know?
Yeah.
So I think our generation really, we're kind of more fortunate and in a more emotionally aware space to
Right.
be able to think more about us. What are
Right.
we feeling? What is this emotion? Why is this emotion? The idea of trauma as well comes up a lot with our generation. So it's definitely like people like Brene Brown and other people who have pioneered this emotional and vulnerability type studies. They've done a huge benefit for us. So for you to be able to share that is a huge thing, and I hope you know that. That's what I want to get down to. I hope you know to identify that I don't know how to identify is groundbreaking, especially at 31, like you said.
I was thinking about how we have that phrase, work smarter, not harder. And from our previous generations, for whatever reasons, because there's many factors as to why they had to pretty much put their feelings on mute and keep it pushing. But now with the newer generation that has the ability to take time to focus and do the work and process their emotions, is like, I have no time to mute myself and not try to explore my emotions, because in the past, when I tried to do that, I worked harder. When I take the time, and when we take the time to really identify like what's going wrong with our life so that we can make it right, God willing, will we then be able to work smarter. And that's actually why I created what I call the vent session for other people like me who have suppressed and don't really know how to say I'm this, I'm that, I'm whatever. They could just talk about it, and through them talking, will I be able to be like, that's how you're feeling? Or they'll be like, oh, that's how I'm really feeling. Like, just vent, verbalize every negative thought, because then you'll be able to work smarter instead of working harder, fighting to push through that brick wall of emotion that you just need to process through, that will just eradicate at the tip of your finger if you give yourself the time to work through it instead of trying to ignore it and keep pushing forward.
Absolutely. That's why I love that vent session that you offer. Shoot, tell them about it.
I made it for us Black women that really have been taught to sweep things under the rug and to wear that mask of facaded strength. Like, having stress, suppressed stress, like, it really makes us sick. It contributes to like a lot of early deaths. And I just really want women to feel seen, heard, and safe, and know that I'm not sitting there trying to put my projections onto you, trying to immediately solve your problems or to make you feel invalidated. I'm here to validate you. So if you out there suppressing, come on to Coach Key. Follow me at Instagram, Coach Keyona, because like, wallahi, like seriously, suppressing is going to be the death of many of us. And I really want us to like get decompress, de-stress.
Contrary to popular thought, the number one killer of our people is not guns. It is not even sugar. It's stress that's killing us and causing heart disease. So it's definitely important. I'm glad you offer something like that for us Black women.
Sure.
Would you consider yourself an empath?
Hell to the yes, girl. As much as I love people, I love to talk to people, I love to problem solve for people or be their sounding board, I have realized that I'm kind of like, I have the same vibe as an introvert, where like, if you invite me somewhere, I gotta mentally and emotionally prepare. So like with conversations with people, when I'm engaging with them and when I'm taking on their feelings, after that phone call, I am drained. I need a time to woo-saw and to get my own bearings. Like, yeah, I'm for sure an empath. What about you? Are you an empath?
Oh yeah. What? It's to the point when I was young, I didn't know this word empathy. So I'm feeling all of these things. I think it's why I am an introvert and why I was very shy. I would feel everyone at once and it would make my body sweat. So I'm an empath. I feel everything.
I don't know, like, correct me if I'm wrong on like being an empath, but I feel like a part of me being an empath is that I go into like this superwoman mode where like if something is happening to you or to someone, I'm immediately in my head trying to figure out how can I soothe you? How can I help you to feel better? Like, it drives me crazy, but it's like, I don't know, like I immensely put myself in people's shoes, that it's like, well, what would I do to try to get myself out of it? And then how can I help that person get out of it? Like, I really carry this pressure of like problem solving, but I kind of do it internally without like putting the pressure on the person to, hey, allow me to solve your problems. Like, no, I'm in my head thinking like, yo, like, how can I really help this person? And it like literally will be in my mind all day until I feel like I did it.
Yo, that's deep. That was the best way to put it. I like how you said superwoman. To me, I always feel it as only a pressure. But hopefully I can turn it into a superwoman strength. But I feel that too. It's kind of like this bubble that gets into your chest, and it's like, I need to do something. I'm not sure what it is, but I need to do it. And for me, I typically will just sit and let that person talk more and ask them more questions and allow them to just lay it on me until when I get what it is that they need, that pressure is released.
That's dope. That's dope.
So let's talk about rating yourself, because that's always fun. Let's rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5. We kind of talked about this already, but how good are you right now at identifying your emotions?
I would say I'm a 3. Out of 5, yeah, I'm a 3. Because I went from being real generic with, like, when people would say, like, how are you feeling today? I'm fine. I'm good. I'm well. Now, I really articulate how I'm feeling. I'm not going to lie to someone, say that I'm good or I'm well or I'm fine just to pass the time. I really hate those questions, to be honest with you, because I feel like it's a small talk question to start a conversation. And I actually heard in another young lady's podcast where she said, instead of asking that really fluffy, how are you doing? Say, how's your mental health today? Because that's a question that you can't say I'm fine, I'm well, I'm good, that you really give a person an opportunity to say like, yo, what's up? What's on your mente? Like, what's going on? And so that's how I try to think of it when people ask me about my emotions or I'm talking about it, like, how's my mental health today? How's my emotional health? And then, like, because I'm also a poet, like, really start to illustrate like how I'm feeling. So even though I lack the vocabulary right now of really talking about how I feel, it doesn't mean that I lack the ability to really give you a picture of how I feel. But yeah, I would say a 3.
Nice.
What about you?
Ooh, I would say I'll do a 1.5.
Okay.
I'll do 1.5 because that's like my main thing, being able to identify. I need to expand my vocabulary. Every time I find a new word, I'll use it, because I think we feel all emotions all throughout the day. We can feel them. It's just being aware. So I try to incorporate, like, vulnerable was my word a while ago. I think right now I might be in my anxiety bag, and who knows what's coming next.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel like, I don't want to say the pressure, but the let's say willingness, the willingness to really get into your vulnerability, expressing of emotion bag, do you feel like it's really inspired by being in a relationship compared to being single? Like, how was it for you being single, identifying emotions and expressing them, versus being in a relationship? Because for me, it's the relationship that really sparked me to be like, yo, you gotta do this, as opposed to when I was single, I could hide behind not doing it. So, like, what about you?
What's up, everyone? I'm back. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. That was just part 1. Don't forget, I have other parts. Check them out on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening. Before you click out, do not forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast episode. Peace.